Welcome, welcome, welcome. You guys, I want to call you light lovers. That's what I want to do now. My light lovers, thank you for tuning in. Or if you're watching this, on a replay, I rarely catch anybody's lives. But my goal here is really to build some community with you all and have a discussion. I was thinking about how, what did I say? I wanted to go through some critical thinking strategies. I'm coming at this from a scholar scientist perspective because I have so many years of grad school and they explicitly taught us how to analyze data, how to decide if it was a credible source or not. And so I feel like the people's school is not really teaching people to be critical thinkers, and it's a concern. And so, if you caught my video about are people, are people like what's the really what? I use Joe Rogan as an example because so many people are up in arms that he is saying things that they don't think are true. I'm not really sure if it's misinformation. I'll get into it. I have an article from The Guardian that kind of details some of the things that he said and how some people disagree with him. Yeah, and so I just want to put my perspective on it because we really need to be critical consumers of everything. Everything. There's so much fake news. There's so much clickbait. There's so much that they want us to be angry about, upset about. The rage machine is raging. It's working. People click on it. And people also view celebrities as sort of otherworldly, and I think that's also a problematic thing because then they're on this pedestal and can they be checked? Can they not be checked? Should they be canceled? Cancel is not a thing, and I don't think it's helpful. So some of my stances, I don't believe in censorship, like how people ban books because they disagree with some of the words or the content. I'm not on that team. But like I said in my Are People, not that smart? That video, people consistently, the sheep of among us, consistently make decisions that are not in their best interest. And so then whose responsibility is it to stand up and say something? I think Spotify's response being that we will give you this disclaimer, we'll point you in the right direction of information is a response, considering that we live in such a divisive time. People are just really doing confirmation bias and looking for information that just confirms what they already believe. So that's already problematic and concerning. But I'm hoping for the best. I really do believe that this is going to be a temporary, like a transition. I don't know when. My guess is like 30 years when we'll start to see a difference in the media, because this has been like 2 decades in the making to get to where we are now, where like a Trump could be president. So there's lots of articles about Joe Rogan. I like The Guardian because they're not owned by a billionaire, just used for this example. But I read the headlines on CNN. I go into my patients' rooms and they are excited for elderly folks. So I've seen like COVID in real time. Not in 2020. Yeah, not in like the spring of 2020, but after. And so I know a lot of them are very interested in like Fox News. So I get some of the headlines on Fox News, hear some of the rhetoric and the words that they use, which is why I did my video about Fox News thinks you're stupid. They definitely think their followers are not that bright, which is that's just wild. So the article, I'm going to share it on screen and then show you some of the key points, some of the things that really, I guess, need fleshing out. And all of it is not because the Guardian is in the UK, I think, and so they're citing statistics from the UK, but all of it is relative. The United States has some of the worst statistics when it comes to developed nations. We also have I think the largest percentage of people who are overweight or obese. In the description, or I think I'll leave a comment because there's also a gentleman on YouTube who is talking about the virus, and highlighting some things that they're not really sharing in the news. Okay, so Spotify, right? What does the science actually say, right? So people are saying that Joe Rogan is spreading misinformation. What is it really that he's saying that has people in such up in arms? Okay, so one of the things he said, right? Healthy young people don't need a COVID vaccine. It says Rogan has claimed he isn't anti-vaccine, right? I don't think anybody is really saying that. He's saying I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm not saying nobody should get it. I think that's important because the anti-vaxxers are an extreme of the spectrum of nobody should get it and it's all trying to kill us, like more like the conspiracy theory. So he's clearly saying I'm not anti-vaccine. But during one of his episodes, he said, if you're like 21 years old and you say to me, should I get vaccinated? I'll go, no. And I'm going to do a Patreon video about my personal experience, about whether I'm vaccinated or not, and like what I think about the vaccine. I'm not going to do that in this video. I don't really feel like making it public. Which, because everybody's crazy. Okay, I just would like to keep that on Patreon. So if you care, look out for it on Patreon. Okay, so they're trying to dispute what he's saying. Although it's true that older people are at a greater risk of severe disease, right? Older people are at a greater risk. Younger people can and do die from COVID-19. I'm not sure anybody said they didn't die, but okay, we see that. And so this is the UK statistics. There have been 39 deaths in 20 to 29-year-olds with COVID in England since January. When was this article written? Let's go back up. Because I mean, this is recent. The Spotify stuff is recent. Why they don't have a date here? What's wrong with these people? Or am I just, oh, see there. 31st. Yeah. So in a month, 39 people died in January. Okay. And then what do they say? That among those 30 to 39, there have been 185 deaths during the same period. That's lower than the 18,000 deaths in people aged 80 and above. And so when they say that and then and then end it, but not insignificant, is it significant, right? Is there a statistically significant difference between 39 deaths in 20 to 29-year-olds and 18,000? And then what is it that they're not telling us about the 20 to 29-year-olds who actually did die? Because one of the things that they're not really talking about on the mainstream media is that the people who are dying from COVID, the young people who are dying from COVID, have some kind of underlying disease. And if they don't have an underlying disease, they are overweight or obese. I think one of the better ways to describe it is that they have some insulin resistance, so they have difficulties in their insulin. And so it's like a metabolic, because COVID acts on your heart, your pulmonary, and your lungs. So altogether, it's like, let's pick apart what's actually happening with these 20 to 29-year-olds. So then if only 39 people, right? Even if it's just one person, like if my son died, God forbid, it would be a big deal. But if people die every day of all kinds of things, why then are y'all honing in on these young people? Why? I don't know. Politics, everything is political, the way they do these things. I think one of the grand issues that isn't being discussed, right, is a 20-something-year-old, maybe a good idea for them to get vaccinated would be to protect the people who are most at risk for dying of COVID. I feel like this individualistic US, Western, UK society, people are like, well, if I'm not going to die, I don't care about you. Like, why do I need to get vaccinated to protect you? I don't care about you. So that's right. That's really the discussion that people are having. If I'm not gonna die from it, if I'm so unlikely to die from it, then I'm not going to get it. So is it misinformation that Joe Rogan is giving by saying a 21-year-old probably doesn't need to get vaccinated? I don't, that doesn't sound like misinformation to me. Like if you're healthy and you're young, you, if you got COVID, you would have little to no symptoms. And they also don't spend a lot of time talking about the little to no symptoms people, because, well, because they like to scare people. They want to make it sound like everybody's dying. Everybody who gets COVID is dying. Whereas most people who get COVID don't know they have it, right? They get a little tickle in their throat and they think they're fine. Or they have like a runny nose or something. It's like they do not get severe illness. Like the overwhelming majority of people who get severe COVID illness are older or have an excess amount of fat. This risk, myocarditis is like inflammation of the heart muscle. I my understanding is COVID acts on damaging the heart. The whole pulmonary is damaged, which is why people were getting strokes or blood clots and things like that. I think the data is sort of clear that your risk is higher if you get COVID. If you got a severe dose of COVID, experience of COVID, your risk for myocarditis is higher than if you got the vaccine. I don't know where this one came from. I think it was, is it the Johnson and Johnson was the one dose? The one dose of Johnson and Johnson had a higher, and when I say higher, right? Because there's a fail rate in everything. So I think 0.0 something was the risk of somebody like having an allergic reaction to one of the vaccines. People die from getting vaccines. That's true. That's clear. But it's so rare. It's so unlikely. And so, the people who are likely to die are needed to consult with their doctors who would say, no, you shouldn't get it because you are at increased risk. So like this, I don't know where he got that from. Him explaining that it is a thing that could happen. Like there's nothing wrong with saying it's a thing that could happen, but it's so unlikely. And I compare this to driving a car. You are more likely to die from a car accident than you are to die from COVID. If you are like a fairly healthy, regular person, if you don't wear your seatbelt though, and you get in a car accident, you're probably going to die or have serious problems. So you should probably always wear your seatbelt, but should you not drive because there's a risk of getting in an accident? No, you should drive. You should just try to be as safe as you can be. And so it's like that. It's like you're so unlikely to get an infection in your heart because of the vaccine. That's like saying you're not going to drive. What? Okay. I mean, it's an idea, but okay. And this, why I found this to be so hilarious because it reminded me of, this is the ivermectin. Is that how they say it? Because it reminded me of when Trump said, if Clorox is so effective at getting killing the coronavirus on surfaces, imagine if you injected it. What did he say? Injected it, put it inside. It was some weird wording that could have been a joke, could have not been a joke. But like I said in my other video, people are sheep. And people literally were drinking Clorox. So it's like, so if you have this understanding that people are consistently not making the interests that are best for themselves, why would you say this? That's my thing. Why would you say this? And so this one felt like misinformation. It definitely felt like, how? Okay, so during his June 18th podcast, Rogan's guest, the evolutionary biologist, who I love a biologist, claimed that ivermectin alone, listen, always be wary of people who give extremes, right? So I'm gonna tell you, if you eat right, if you eat a lot of vegetables, low meat, if you exercise about 3 times a week, if you keep your stress, like that's more than one thing, right? It's very weird that the complex biology of human beings ends up being only one thing that will fix it. But this person said, ivermectin alone, if properly utilized, is capable of driving this pathogen to extinction. Then Rogan announced that he tested positive for COVID and was also taking the anti-parasitic drug. Is COVID are the coronaviruses a parasite? No, they're a pathogen, but are they a I mean, I could understand how someone would think if I use this and there are foreign bodies inside of me, right? The virus, this would work as well. This would work as well. When viruses can't be cured, you have to go through you could reduce the symptoms that you get from the virus, but you have to go through the symptoms that go through it. Your body has to naturally deal with the virus. You can't cure it. I haven't seen any explanation that was backed by a whole bunch of scientists who I respect and appreciate and look at their differences of opinion to go over why ivermectin was touted as being so effective. Yeah. So I'm here with this because of a lack of good quality evidence, because I like studies. I like studies. Because of a lack of good quality evidence, we do not know whether ivermectin administered in hospital or in an outpatient setting leads to more or fewer deaths after 1 month when compared with a placebo. Placebos also make people think something's happening or usual care. Listen, the people. Okay, I didn't know this one. Our mRNA vaccines are gene therapy. Okay, in August, Rogan claimed the Pfizer and Moderna COVID vaccines were not really vaccines, but gene therapy. Vaccine is where they take a dead virus and they turn it into a vaccine and they inject it into your body so your body fights off the infection. This is really gene therapy. It's a different thing. It's tricking your body into producing spike protein and making these antibodies for COVID. Okay, it's true that mRNA vaccines persuade our own cells to manufacture the viral spike protein. I feel like I'm giving a presentation. But what I want, okay? Let me know what your thoughts about what Spotify should do, right? But I also want you to think critically about everything that is out there, right? And so it's like this discussion of mRNA. What is your knowledge of mRNA? The only people I know who know a great deal about mRNA and then mRNA vaccines are people with PhDs who wrote like theses about this. I myself do not have a lot of information on mRNA. I have like basic understanding of, not basic, I'm not that basic, but I do not have the level of director of the CDC understanding of mRNA. And so when you hear a layperson talk about these things as if they know for sure exactly what they're talking about, when they've done no studies, all they've done is read some things or be told by somebody that they work or this is the way it is. When they do it with such gusto, I'm just like, hard pause, like how do you know? Like, how do you even know what gene therapy is? Do you even know? You just looked it up on Google one time and then you were like, okay, gene therapy, permanently alters your genes. And so the mRNA vaccine is gene therapy. I don't know. I don't know. And then what does that matter when it comes to the whole overall idea of using the vaccine, right? I'm not telling you need to get the vaccine, but you need to look at the information critically so that you can make a decision for yourself. Because like most people, they either got it because they were told or didn't get it because they were told. They didn't look at all of the information to figure out what would be best for them. So, well, I understand why somebody would say this, but I'm not gonna get vaccinated. I have antibodies. The antibodies only last so long, but sort of like the vaccine only lasts so long, which is why people get the flu vaccine every year, because the virus with flu changes, mutates, and the antibodies in your body can no longer combat this new version of the flu. The coronavirus is COVID-19 is proving to be the same thing, which is why, I know people, right, working it. And it's also another thing to be able to see it for yourself. I know some people don't even believe that the virus is real. I didn't really have doubts that the virus was real because it was traveling across the world to the US. So making it sound like it's just a US thing was wild to me. The whole world had this experience. It's a global pandemic. And the fact that the United States didn't prepare, like they didn't think, oh, it's us. Didn't think, oh, it's not that bad. It's just like a flu. I also thought it was just gonna be like a flu. But when the data started rolling in, that it's more than a flu. It's more contagious. It's more deadly. I think it's like 3 times as deadly as the flu. Then it's time to make some different changes. It's just time to do something different. So the antibodies that you get from if you get the flu, if you get COVID, they don't last like past I think 9 months. Some studies are saying. So I know patients who've now had COVID 9 times, 9 times, not nine, God, not nine, 4 times. Still a lot. I know some people who have had COVID 3, 4 times and have been symptomatic every time. Only one time, I think, once or twice, she had to go to the hospital because her symptoms were so severe, and then she was starting to develop pneumonia, which is the thing that typically kills people. But it doesn't last. I mean, I mean, okay. We're almost done with this. Lockdowns make things worse. Listen, don't ask me about lockdown because I might say some controversial stuff. Okay, so Rogan has spoken out against lockdowns, arguing that they can perpetuate the spread. Lockdowns perpetuate the spread. It makes things worse. You know why? Because people go inside. They are trapped inside, and that's where it spreads. Most people are alone, though. No, I don't know. I mean, I spent lockdown with just me and my son. What did you do when lockdown first happened? And then I think by month 3, friends were socializing. I guess they're trapped inside. I thought the lockdown was a not bright idea. And the subsequent things that they did with schools and mask mandates, and I wasn't really a fan. I make a joke about the governor of Georgia and really appreciating some of the freedom that he gave people to, right? I'm not a fan, but I definitely like some of the choice that I was given to not deal with the lockdowns and the mandatory this and that. So the author of this article is saying it's true. I think it's Zara. It's true that since the virus is airborne, transmission is more likely indoors, particularly if ventilation is poor. But the point of lockdowns is to reduce the number of contacts. Listen, the I'm so glad nobody's doing lockdowns anymore in the US because, like I've said many times before, there are ramifications greater than people dying from a virus. Like there are long-term consequences to this pandemic that we have not seen yet, and we will not know the full effect until I think like 10 years out. Uh, I listen. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm glad I'm not the one in charge of making all these decisions. I'm glad I'm not the head of Spotify to then try to figure out the balance between uh, making subscribers happy, making other content creators who exclusively use Spotify to create information feel like we're doing enough to help people. If I'm coming from this place of loving, wanting to help other people, understanding that most people do what they're told, regardless of whether the information is accurate or helpful, most people are doing what they're told. Uh, then I feel so connected to people and wanting to help people and inform them that it would be difficult for me to keep Joe Rogan on. Most of what he's saying, I don't think it's misinformation. I think it's his opinion. I think it's his way of handling his own decisions for himself and what he thinks is best. But just saying out loud what he thinks is best for himself means that there are people who are going to do it. That's not his responsibility. I do not think it's his responsibility. But when it comes to like my personal ethics, I think I would have a different way of going about it. But he's a middle-aged white man. He's not a young Black woman who's had a very different experience in the United States. So we're definitely coming from two different places. I believe people should be allowed to wreck their own lives. If you want to get the vaccine, if you don't want to get the vaccine, like I think you should be allowed to decide what you want. Even in healthcare settings, I don't think you should keep it show. I think you should keep it show too. I think Spotify has been doing something. Spotify did something. So yeah, I'm definitely like, am I anti? Yeah, I'd say I'm anti-censorship and I'm anti-cancel culture. I think people, instead of going on this crusade to get somebody gone or demonetize people, should just decide where they want to split their attention or not. If you don't like Joe Rogan, then don't watch him. I don't watch Joe Rogan, not because I don't like him. I really do enjoy free thinkers. But his stick, I guess, his style. I'm not really a fan, but every now I pop in to see the clips of him that go viral and somebody talking about something. I think he asks questions. I think that's what we need more of, people asking questions. Even like the Whoopi Goldberg and the Jewish situation about race. I think people should be able to ask questions without being punished for asking questions or making a mistake and saying the wrong thing or just giving their opinion. Like, really? I mean, but that's my opinion on that. Be Creative says, I don't believe he needs to change his stance. I know. Groupthink is, but well, we know what the average IQ is. So, like, there's no getting away from groupthink. People are going to follow. People are going to follow. My goal for this was about 30 minutes. So I'm basically done. I think Spotify's information, directing people into a good place to get reliable, credible information is a good idea. I think the diehard people who are anti-vaccine or super pro Joe Rogan don't care about credible information. That's okay too. That, like, do you boo? Like, I definitely am like a do you boo. Like, people should be able to write their own lives. Oh man, what'd you say? It's all for attention to have people pick us. Well, I agree. The divisiveness, there's a lot of money behind picking a side. There's definitely tons of money just behind picking a side. I I I don't know, man. 30 years, I said, right? 30 years. I think there's gonna be a difference. Thank you, Be Creative, for tuning in. Anybody else who popped in, and those of you who are watching the replay after, like I said, I don't watch anybody's lives. Rarely do I catch anybody's lives. So if you tuned in, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm gonna do more lives. I was thinking about doing one about is her name Christy? I keep saying it wrong. The Miss USA, Miss USA. I wanted to take a look at it from a psychologist background because she posted or she wrote an article for a magazine about turning 30. And I know what it was like for me when I turned 30. It was something. But she wrote an article about what it was like, and it wasn't good. Like, she was not happy. And so I thought about doing a live about that article. I think it would be interesting to look for the red flags. So I might do that one. Maybe next week or the week after. Maybe next week or the week after. Anyway, let me see. I'm gonna be doing some things on Patreon soon. So check the description box when I update it for my Patreon. It's Spirit Soul Sense. You could also search for it on Patreon. And I have a banner for my thing. What is this? Oh, my website, spiritualsense.com, for art. I'm gonna be designing some merch too. And then what's the other thing? If you want a one-on-one with me, then go to my Cannoneer Psychological Center website and request a session. What other important things do I need to share? Next week, I will be going live on Instagram with Hyacinth Henderson, 7:30 on Tuesdays. We talk money and mental health. If you haven't already purchased my poetry book, you can purchase it on spiritsoulsense.com or on Amazon. It's called Dream Girl. But thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. Everyone who thumbs up and shares my videos. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. I will see y'all on the next broadcast.